Boom. Just like that. Errol Spence gets a new tattoo. Big fish. Hey, stop that cat. Man down. Big fish. He says he's the big fish. He the big dog. He the big man on campus. Terence Crawford, he feels a different way. We're going to explore all these topics in this video. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. We unpacked. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego Unpacked. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Yo, what up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. We unpack. Let's get into it. Now, Errol Spence, in case you guys didn't know, that's why you follow me for the latest and greatest in all things boxing. Errol Spence got a brand new tattoo, some new ink, posted this on his story, and a closer look, you guys can see it looks like the Jaws cover of a great white or a shark, and it says big fish. Hey, stop that cat. Big fish. Let me show y'all the shark. Boom. And I was actually gonna make this video anyway, and this is the perfect segue into the video since Errol Spence has been calling himself Mr. Man Down, Strap Season, aka Big Fish, right? And I was gonna make this because I have other angles that I want to explore. So this is, like I said, the perfect transition and the perfect segue into the content. So Errol Spence has been claiming that he's the big fish, and for some reason, some odd reason, I feel like Terence Crawford's team and Crawford fans are having an exceptionally difficult time embracing this theory or this fact. I wholeheartedly agree that Errol Spence is the big fish in the welterweight division, right? Tons of talent, some great names at the welterweight division, but for starters, out of the whole shebang, Errol Spence has the most belts in the welterweight division. This is not Ego's opinion. This is an absolute fact. Errol Spence factually has also produced the most money for the welterweight division. Again, this is not my opinion. I don't say stuff for my health and there's no backing. Errol Spence has produced the biggest events in the current welterweight division. Manny Pacquiao, I want to, it's up to my promoter, He's retired. He made that official. He's no longer fighting. So he's done. Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, they're retired fighters. Floyd said he's not coming back. He might do some exhibitions here and there. That's completely different. So out of the current crop, there's some young guys that, you know, they look like they're going to be very good for the future. Jerron Boots Ennis, I'm really checking for him. But also Virgil Ortiz, Conor Benn. But they haven't amassed and done the things that Errol Spence has done. And same thing with Terence Crawford. Furthermore, Terence Crawford is currently involved in a beef with his own promoter, Bob Arum and Top Rank. So to me, see, the thing that it's hilarious in boxing is when you say certain things like Errol Spence, he's the big fish and he's the A side, people on the internet want to argue with you, and some things, they're not even debatable. Like, there's nothing to argue. Unless you can prove and disprove what I'm saying, Errol Spence is that dude. He's produced more money than any of the other guys. He's had the bigger events. He's been on pay-per-view and done better numbers. He has the most belts in the division, and he's the man to beat. I believe PBC last night or a couple nights ago when Keith Thurman fought, they had put up the top 10 fighters in the welterweight class, right? And a lot of people had Errol Spence in in the top positions, or at least in the top 2. I think here's a list. Now, Sean Porter had Errol Spence at number 3. I mean, Sean Porter, he fought really all the guys in the top 3, so whatever. He actually fought all the top 4. That's his opinion. But more importantly, the actual commentator, Joe Goosen, his top 10, he has Errol Spence number 1. And again, he's 27-0, 21 knockouts, and he has the WBC and the IBF. These things are not debatable. Crawford has the WBO belt, and he's had the same one belt the whole time he's been at welterweight because he got it in his first fight. Now, I'm going to take you down a trip down memory lane because in the words of my favorite fighter, Roy Jones Jr., y'all must have forgot. When it comes to the big fish, Errol Spence has told you, just like Boxing Ego has told you, of Terence Crawford's situation with former promoter that has now exploded and culminated in Crawford currently suing an open lawsuit against Bob Arum. New York Times, you guys see it. Says Terence Crawford claims Bob Arum's revolting racial bias has hurt his career. And I've made several videos. I'll continue to do such. Stay tuned to the channel for the latest and greatest. But there's quotes like, Bob Arum in Top Rank simply does not care about, support, or know how to promote black fighters, and deliberately didn't build Crawford into a marquee pay-per-view star. So to tie this all together, when Errol Spence is saying that he is the man to beat and he is the big fish, henceforth getting these tattoos, to me, this is no question. This is a no-brainer. It makes perfect sense. Terence Crawford's team and his fans seem like they have a difficult time understanding that and, you know, want to suggest something different. But my theory is this: if what Errol Spence is saying is invalid, then why is Terence Crawford suing his former promoter for lack of promotion and not knowing how to handle him and not making him into a marquee star? Errol Spence, the most belts, as you see in this picture, the most belts in the welterweight class. He is not starving for notoriety or popularity. He's making, it looks like, great money. People are recognizing him, and his events are doing well and selling. But when it comes to Terence Crawford fans, it's like Terence Crawford fans and Crawford's team and stuff, they're like, just make the fight. But in no world does that work where you could just say make the fight and the business doesn't have to get handled. I mean, that's just common sense. But I'm gonna take you down a trip down memory lane. Y'all must have forgot, as I stated, where this is what Errol Spence said. I shot this with my camera and we gonna take a listen. Roll the clip.
Lastly, you talk about not listening to what the crowd has to say, but I'm pretty sure after this performance, a competitive fight that Sean gave you, a lot of Crawford fans are gonna have a field day and they're gonna...
So the question says something about a lot of Crawford fans are gonna have a field day because you were in a tough fight, which I don't even understand the question, because what is there to have a field day? Sean Porter showed up to fight in 2019, I think it was, when Errol fought him, Staples Center. And it was a good fight. So, you know, I don't understand the field day part, but listen to Errol Spence.
I do pressure you more into maybe negotiating that fight. How do you think you're going to respond to that?
Pressuring you more into negotiating that fight.
How do you think you're going to respond to that?
No, man. The last time Crawford fought on pay-per-view, he had 100,000 buys. So I'm not.
He said last time Crawford fought on pay-per-view, he did 100,000 pay-per-view buys. And that was his fight with Amir Khan, if I'm not mistaken.
The last time Crawford fought on pay-per-view, he had 100,000 buys. So I'm not worried about Crawford right now.
I'm not worried about Terence Crawford right now, says Errol Spence. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. I got many videos coming. We gonna get these points out. So he said, I'm not worried about Terence Crawford. Last time he fought on pay-per-view, he did 100,000 buys.
Right now, they don't really buy, so I'm not worried about Crawford right now. They don't really promote him like they should be, so.
They don't even promote him like they should be. Listen to that again.
They don't really promote him like they should be, so it is what it is. Worry about Crawford right now. They don't really promote him like they should be, so worry about Crawford right now. They don't really promote him like they should be, so it is what it is. We worry about Crawford when we get there, but like I said,
we'll worry about Crawford when we get there. He's saying his own team, they don't even promote him like they should be. And this is not the first time he said it, and it's dang sure not the first time I've said it.
I'm not worried about Crawford right now. They don't really promote him like they should be, so it is what it is. We worry about Crawford when we get there, but like I said, Crawford needs me more than I need him. I'm pretty.
Crawford needs me more than I need him. So again, we can make this as easy as it needs to be or as difficult as it needs to be. Errol Spence, if we're listening to the stuff he said, it's very similar to what I've said. And when we're talking about consistency, Errol Spence is consistently saying the same thing. He's consistently said that Top Rank and his promoters, his team, they're not doing a good job of promoting him, which is what I've said. And I've also talked about the NBF No Black Fighter list, right? These are things that are analogous and we have in common, me and Errol Spence, right? Is that Crawford hasn't been promoted well. So the funny thing is, like I said, we could do this one or two ways. You know, the common sense way, or you guys can struggle and try to make this something harder than it needs to be. But the point is, it doesn't matter what people say. People are going to say whatever they want to say. I get that. But when someone's saying something and then the future actions, like Crawford suing his promoter, saying that they didn't make him into a marquee star, then who is telling the truth? Who is telling the truth if what Errol Spence and Boxing Ego have been saying is showing up in the form of this Terence Crawford lawsuit? Why is Crawford saying, simply put, Arum and Top Rank, they don't know how to promote black fighters? Errol Spence in 2019 at the press conference that I just showed you my clip, right, that I shot standing 5 feet away from Errol Spence. I shot it on my tripod, right? You guys seen the clip, you heard it. Errol Spence said, I'm not worried about Crawford. Crawford, last time he was on pay-per-view, he did 100,000 buys. We'll worry about that when we get there because his own team is not promoting him like they should be. So apparently, Terence Crawford, even though he never really publicly said he agreed, based on his legal moves, that means he must agree with what Boxing Ego and Errol Spence have been saying, because I have a copy. Boxing Ego has obtained a copy of this lawsuit, and it says the lawsuit filed in the 8th Judicial District Court in Nevada on Wednesday states, quote, Crawford shines a spotlight on the systemic RACISM that runs through TR, Top Rank, Top Rank's complete inability to properly promote black fighters, and Top Rank, Arum and his stepson, Todd DeBuff's disparate treatment of black fighters, including Terence Crawford. So once again, if I'm lying and Errol Spence is lying.
Lastly, you talk about not
100,000 buys, so I'm not worried about Crawford right now. They don't really promote him like they should be, so.
They don't even promote him like they should be. So if we are the ones that are lying, then explain, why is he saying this about Bob Arum? And Crawford alleges in further fighting talk in the filing, Arum clearly allows his revolting bias to impact the fighters he's obliged to promote. The suit also mentions other big names like Floyd Money Mayweather, easy work, as having been mistreated by Arum. So again, this is still Crawford. Like a lot of people, I see people lashing out at Errol, lashing out at Keith Thurman, getting mad at Errol Spence when he's saying he's the big fish. But the problem, Crawford, so how is Crawford in this lawsuit mentioning Floyd Mayweather, who before I even knew who Terence Crawford was, Floyd Mayweather had already left Top Rank. So people have been telling Terence Crawford the same information. And the move by Floyd, so if you're citing Floyd and Floyd separated from Top Rank probably after the Zab Judah fight, then that means you entered relationships with Top Rank after that, and an extension with Bob Arum knowing this. And now when it didn't work out for you and you didn't get what you wanted out of the equation, now you're suing, saying there's money owed and this and that, and now you're fighting for it finally. But you had people like Floyd Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya and Manny Pacquiao and Cotto and Andy Ruiz and all these different fighters where you could have looked at their cases and said, hey man, I don't know, maybe Top Rank can't make them into a pay-per-view stars, or why are these guys reaching a certain echelon and then leaving? So I still blame Crawford and his team, right? Because they stayed in this, you know, they stayed in this situation. So a lot of people, they're getting mad at Errol Spence for the big fish. He's not saying anything wrong. He is the big fish. He has the numbers to prove it, the live gates. There's not a Terence Crawford recent welterweight fight that I can think of that has surpassed Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence. And I know Terence Crawford's team, they're putting out this notion, like Bernie, saying stuff like, oh, those were all Mikey fans. I was at the fight ringside in Jerry's World, and I seen tons of Errol Spence attire, and he's from Texas. So I'm supposed to believe that a fight in Texas had no one there to see the actual fighter, even though I'm there at the fight and I seen a ton of people. And see, there's a misnomer and a misconception. Some people in boxing are so biased that they think everybody else in boxing thinks as biased as they do. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, for example, some people think because there's a Mexican fan and Mikey Garcia is Mexican American and Errol Spence is black, that Errol doesn't have Mexican fans, which is not true. There was a ton of Mexican fans that I seen, as well as other fans of other ethnicities and races that were there to support Errol Spence. So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of misnomers in the game of boxing. You know, people don't want to give, they want to hate, and they don't want to give credit to Errol Spence. I have footage on my cameras, on my memory cards, on my hard drives from being at the fight, and there was a ton of love for Errol Spence. It wasn't just, you know, Mikey Garcia show and nobody came to see the actual fighter from that state. Again, there's Mexican fight fans that are just love the sport of boxing. They're not going to root for Mikey just because he's Mexican. There are some people that, you know, the national pride and commonalities and stuff, they're going to root for the person who looks or sounds like them, but that's not everybody. You know what I mean? So Terence Crawford's team seems almost bothered by Errol Spence saying he's the big fish and saying, oh, like Bernie did an interview recently. He said, I think they fluffed the numbers. So, you know, I'm not really confident this fight happens this year. Some people, they keep talking about it. I really have to see what Crawford's next move is, because so far his moves haven't really been indicative of somebody who really is gonna steer the wheel in the direction that makes the most sense from my view. Crawford also previously said stuff like this: Crawford on the Spence fight, if it ain't 60-40, the purse split in my favor, then the Errol Spence fight won't happen, right? Spence had already said that Crawford needs to take a lower purse split. He says, I'm the big dog at 147. So again, all I'm asking you as a true boxing fan, if you're really not biased, listen to what I've presented in this video. I've showed you clips of Errol Spence consistently saying that Terence Crawford hasn't been promoted right. He hasn't been treated right by his own promotion. I've showed you in other videos, he was like, they're talking about Lomachenko and it's a Crawford pay-per-view. Why are you talking about Lomachenko? What's he got to do with it? Are the two fighting? Why you keep talking about Lomachenko? So again, Errol Spence, you guys want me to be angry. I'm not angry at anybody, but you guys want me to say all this negative stuff and give this negative press to Errol Spence. But what he's saying is actually adding up. Spence saying he's the big dog at 147. Spence is getting tattoos that say he's the big fish, but he is the big fish. He does the best numbers. He has the most belts, and that's that. Crawford is saying that I need 60-40, you know, when this article was written in my favor. How are you going to get that when you fought your last two opponents, Sean Porter and Kell Brook, were guys Errol Spence had beat before you? So when Errol Spence is making these comments saying, quote, it could happen, but I'm the big dog at welterweight. So Crawford, he got to take a back seat, take 60-40 or 70-30. Crawford has responded and said, quote, and they said it was me. I rest my case now. On to the next. The chapter is now closed. So Crawford don't want to accept the reality. But again, just like I've stated, just like Errol stated, the real issue, what we're saying is true. Errol has done the bigger numbers. You haven't been promoted right. And now you're suing, which is you're agreeing that you haven't been promoted right, right? It says this is generally because affected boxers who are on long-term contracts with Top Rank fear if they speak up, they'll be sidelined for 5 to 7 years. So you're admitting what Errol Spence and Boxing Ego have publicly said about you haven't been promoted right. You have not received the Lomachenko, Manny Pacquiao, Tyson Fury red carpet treatment. So again, Errol Spence getting a tattoo like this. I told you we're gonna unpack the whole thing. Errol Spence getting the tattoo and getting the ink that says Big Fish. He truly is that. You know, you can get mad and pick a side. And it's funny because a lot of beta males listen to my channel, and I'm very direct and I'm very blunt and I'm saying exactly what I feel. But people will say, oh, so you think Terence Crawford would lose to Errol Spence? I didn't say anything about, this is not a fight prediction video. I didn't say anything about who would win in the fight. I don't care. I'm telling you the fight, I don't see it happening if they can't reach common ground. And with the information that Crawford has previously put, I don't see that he's not in the driver's seat like I've always maintained. So if he doesn't come off this 60-40 and high horse, Spence is saying the opposite. Somebody has to budge. And I'm telling you, it's going to be Bud. Bud has no promoter. He has no network. So he has to make his next move his best move. Versus Errol Spence, he can fight at 154 if he wants to. Even if he stays at 147. Keith, one time, you better not duck me, Thunt. You better not. He just won and beat Mario Barrios. Now he back with a dub in the win column. And even though Errol Spence has had a little bit of a chagrin and saying he don't really want to fight Keith Thurman at this point, because Keith Thurman, when he had the belts, he didn't give him the opportunity. You know, money talks, and Al Heyman's a powerful guy. So Al Heyman might, if that's what the direction he wants, you know, Keith Thurman might end up fighting the Errol Spence Ugas winner. So again, this leaves Bud Crawford in no man's land. Bud Crawford, how is he gonna dictate with his own promoter, ex-promoter at this point, saying he can't sell and staining up his brand, and saying he don't? How's he gonna commandeer 60-40? You know what I mean? He said I'm the big fish. How? Based on what? And again, this is not just about skills. Crawford is a skilled fighter, but there's a lot of skilled fighters. Jake Paul make more money than them. You could be as skilled as you want, but Jake Paul or somebody like that might make more money than you. These are realities I'm talking about. These are realities. So Errol Spence, he has the right to get that tattoo, big fish and man down and strap season. He got the most straps and he is the big fish. So again, I see some people complaining and saying, oh, who cares? Stop. The bottom line is this: there's nobody in life that's smart, that's going to be in a business sense and have the leverage and then forego their leverage and what they've worked for to appease the ops or a rival or somebody else to make it more seamless and a more enjoyable experience for an enemy or a rival. Like it doesn't make sense. You see what I'm saying? Like if this is McDonald's and Burger King, it's not McDonald's. They trying to sell 1 million burgers a day, right? They're not gonna. Their whole job, their whole goal is not to make Burger King. If you're McDonald's, your job is not to make your competitor's life easier. you're trying to make it hard for them, if anything. Like you worried about your ship not sinking. You know what I mean? McDonald's is not worried about Burger King is losing sales and, you know, they're not selling enough fries and onion rings. They don't care about that. And it's weird that in boxing, I understand the competitive aspect and people want to see the fights, but at what point do you forego all rationale and make statements like what Crawford is making and his team's making, saying I'm the A side and I'm the big fish and I deserve the bigger share, and then think you're going to get that? Again, just doesn't make sense in business. Nobody who has leverage has worked hard to get the leverage just to give it up to a rival. So I see this being a major hurdle and roadblock to this fight ever happening, unless Terence Crawford comes to his senses or signs with PBC. And then, you know, of course, it's going to be easier if he gets in close with that situation to make the fight. But if he wants to stay on his own island and work with Kenichi or Eddie Hearn, like it or not, he wasn't involved in the Canelo-Caleb Plant fight like that, despite what he was telling. He was saying that he's on Canelo's team, but you didn't see Eddie Hearn's names really in the credits. It said PBC and Canelo Promotions and Eddie Reynoso. You know what I mean? These are the realities. So Crawford, there's only one move that really, to me, makes the most sense for this stage of his career. And he can do it or not do it. Or he could be stubborn and, you know, say, I'm never doing it, I'll never listen to y'all, and won't. I mean, to each his own. But I fully stand by my statements, and I think he's a tremendous fighter. Errol Spence is a tremendous fighter, but when Errol Spence is getting them tattoos and stuff, you'll understand it a bit more. Look up the live gates. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Errol Spence has the bigger numbers, and he is winning in that arena. He's been branded better. He's not suing his promoter. Terence Crawford is suing his ex-promoter that he spent a decade with. These are the facts. It's not my opinion. Some of this video is my opinion, but stuff like this lawsuit, that's not an opinion. This is in the courts at this point. This is at the court's hands. Let me know how I did. Errol Spence is the big fish. I'll be talking about this more on the channel. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss the content. 2022 is up. You dig? We unpacked. In them up. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster.